What I do know is my personal experiences. I have helped myself heal and others heal through just loving conversation, just being an ear for someone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Heart Inspired, the show dedicated to highlighting individuals in their pursuit of authentic leadership. We peel back the layers to uncover the roadblocks we all face, explore the actions we can take, and how to persevere towards the best version of ourselves. It is my hope that you'll be inspired by their story and gain some insights to help you in your own journey. Dana Nager is the co-founder of Hive talent acquisition firm located in Atlanta, Georgia, female-owned and run global firm. Dana is also the author of Before I Knew It, They Were Gone, a Jewish first-generation American woman's journey through the darkness, a touching memoir of her life. And today she continues to prove that no matter what life throws at us, there are ways to find the strength to show up and be successful. In today's episode, she will share her story, her insights, and her passion to continue to support others. Please welcome my guest, Dana Nager. Welcome, Dana, to the show.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for having me. It's really great to be here.
Dana, when you first shared your story with all that you've endured, and we're going to get into that, I thought I was kind of in awe. I was definitely in awe because I thought, wow, people on the outside and what we see, we just don't know what their journey is and what is the fight that goes on to keep us doing what we're doing and being successful. And you are, you're an author, you're co-founding, you're running a great business, and helping people and speaking and mentoring. So let's hear a little bit about your journey before you became the entrepreneur that you are today.
Absolutely. That's a good place to start as any, right?
Yes.
So going way back, just a little background. I was born and raised in West Los Angeles, California, and moved from West Los Angeles at the ripe age of 14, super bitch, super hormones, super, all of that, right? From West Los Angeles to Gainesville, Georgia, poultry capital of the South, Bible Belt of the South. And it should be said right away that I am Jewish. So I was one of 3 Jewish families in 1994, I think, in the Gainesville area. There are plenty more now, but that was definitely culture shock for my family. Yeah. So
did they choose that town or did it choose them? How did that happen?
That is actually a really good story. My father was corporate in-house general counsel with Mitsubishi Electric for many, many years. And a lot of families ended up relocating from the Southern California area to the Georgia location of choice. At the time was supposed to be Brazelton Brazelton, Georgia, for this plant that they were building. Plant ended up being in Norcross, which is sort of in between Gainesville and Atlanta proper, right? A little more metropolitan, heading towards the south there. So the reason we ended up in Gainesville is because Brazelton and Gainesville are only like 15 minutes away from each other. It was actually going to be a nice little commute for my dad, who was commuting from West LA to Orange County every day.
Oh, wow. That's a big difference.
It was a significant commute. However, the commute remained the same because he commuted in from Gainesville to Norcross every day. But I digress. So that's how we got to Georgia. Good thing that, my Jewish ass was real popular. Lucky me. Played several sports, was in several bands, played tenor saxophone and several other instruments. And so was able to meet people, develop friendships, as was my brother, who was 4 years younger than me. And for him, it was easy. I'm the angsty teenager. He was 9 when we moved.
Yeah.
And, being shirtless and 9 and jumping after frogs and in and out of creeks and, meeting other shirtless friends that summer. I mean, that was like his MO, right?
He was happy.
He was happy. I was miserable.
So you moved to Georgia and did a lot, embraced everything, academics, sports, music, etc. So what was college like for you? Where did you end up?
So college was huge for me. I had a little boyfriend in high school, like we all do at the time, or significant other or whatever that we're, experimenting with, and dumped him as quickly as I could, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at that, right? And headed to Atlanta. I actually fancied myself a Division I soccer player and really wanted to play soccer at either FSU, Florida State University, or UGA, go Dogs. I ended up actually playing 3 sports at Agnes Scott College, which is a private women's college in Decatur, Georgia, in Atlanta. And since then have been in love and fully support my alma mater. They started and founded their summit program back in 2015, and I am on campus at least twice a year or virtually, thanks to the pandemic, helping support that program. This program has been ranked in the country over and over and over again, and we are producing top quality people out of Agnes Scott on a daily basis. I can tell you that. No thanks to me, right? I am not not even close to any of their most famous alma maters or of their alumni. But I will say that Agnes Scott was one of the huge differences in my life, and also a turning point, I might add, being in college and having lost both my parents while I was there.
Wow, that's tough, because even though you're in college and we think we're adults and we can take care of ourselves, we're still children of parents and rely on them. So tell us what that was like.
Pseudo adulthood is what I was most looking forward to be honest. Just felt like I was maturing and learning things about life at a really good pace, and wanted to be a sponge and have all these experiences and figure myself out and honestly do my own thing, get away from Gainesville, get away from my family, become someone that I would want to be friends with, I guess, right? Make my own life in Atlanta. And you realize quite quickly, and I can wholeheartedly admit this, and I actually talk about it in my book, I'm well aware of my white privileged life, and it showed. After I lost my father first and then my mother a year later, all this before graduating college, it was very surreal from the perspective of, I don't know how to balance a checkbook. I don't necessarily know how to efficiently manage a budget or a P&L or a spreadsheet, or I didn't even really know how to create my own spreadsheet, those kind of, it was just very challenging time to say, where am I going to live? How am I going to figure out if it's a good place? Like, what am I going to do? It was a lot, from buying cars and negotiating and understanding those things in general to who am I going to live with? How do I find a job? Like, all of these things. Right. And this was pre my human resources career, which is what I do for a living now.
So something was in that DNA of yours, Dana, to put you in this position that you're in of human resources, because that's definitely a 1-2 punch.
Well, it's true what they say, that it does take a village. And as much as I love and respected my extended family, my friends local to Atlanta and around the greater metro Atlanta area in Georgia were hugely, vastly supportive, right? So we're all kind of going through the same stuff, but they all still had their parents. And so my friends I was closer with, if their parents would come in town or if they took me home with them, it'd be one of those situations where I'd ask questions, right? And try to tone them down a little bit. And there were some moments where I learned some very valuable lessons on things that you should not say to people, all of the maturity coming out. But it really does take a village. And my girlfriends, my friends in general, were just very supportive, wanting to help out. And you figure things out as you go. The truth of the matter is, after having lost both my parents before graduating college, then deciding that I, for some reason, wanted to become a financial advisor and actually thought that was going to be a good idea for me. And then realizing I could not pass the very important tests, right? The certifications, the Series 7 and the Series 6.
Yeah.
They're challenging. And I am not a very good standardized test taker. I never have been. I could talk myself out of the right answer, no problem, right? Like, multiple choice was never my friend.
What do they say? If when in doubt, choose B?
Or C? I don't even know. Now I don't remember the rule, right? Darn you, standardized tests. I'm so glad we're moving away from that, because it's just not a conducive way to qualify someone's skill sets, as we know now.
Agree.
Right. But so when you get to that point, you just have to figure it out. You just have to move forward. I could have very easily become a drug addict, alcoholic, an addictive personality, any of those things could have happened. And some of them did at some points, but it was never detrimental. Thank goodness. I always realized what was happening, got back into therapy, and really decided that I was struggling with some self-sabotage, with some holes in my life, and trying to fill them with things that weren't healthy. And you have to go back into therapy, or have to figure out what it is going to take to heal that pain so you can move forward. And that's really where the book stemmed from, Michelle.
Yeah. So you were in college. How old was your brother at this point?
We were 4 years apart. So I was He lost his father, our father, when he was 16, a
Yeah,
young
that's
boy.
very young.
And then 17 when our mother died. And we have a very bizarre story there because our parents have the same death anniversary. They died same day, a year apart, merely hours from each other's death times. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then my brother, unfortunately, as we know, the brain is a very powerful tool, right?
Yeah.
We can do so many wonderful things, and it itself has coping mechanisms and defenses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so people, as we say, handle things differently.
Yeah.
My brother did not handle the death of his parents like I did. We did have very different perspectives on that. And my brother, basically stopped developing at 16, right? The emotional intelligence was very low. The professionalism, the maturity, it just never happened. And unfortunately, because of the way that we were raised, and I talk about this in the book, my parents were definitely unique, is probably as nice as I can get with that, in how they raised us separately of each other in the same house. But my father was over me and had nothing to do with raising my brother. And my mother raised my brother. And one of the reasons why that happened, and I talk about it in the book, is my father was an elitist. And there were some thought processes there that weren't so healthy, right? So from that perspective, he raised a tough bitch. I have a thick skin. I can get through anything. I'm excellent with taking direction, and I have a natural leadership as well. Would I take any of that back? No, just maybe a fine tuning of how it was,
little softening here and there,
right? Softening here and there. But my poor brother became a yes person because he didn't want to be yelled at. He didn't want to be treated a certain way. And he also did not like the fact that he just never really had information and things to share with the family that were positive. Like, so what's going on with you? He hated those questions. He had nothing going on, and it was really hard for him. And he unfortunately passed about 10 years later. He was morbidly obese, and he was drinking and smoking on a daily basis, and he ended up dying from a heart attack. And that was, that was almost harder to me personally than it was losing both of our parents, because I felt like with my brother, it could have been avoided. And so prior to that, I had tried to be involved in his life and help, and it just wasn't, right? And so you go through the various forms of guilt there too.
So within 10 years or 10 years plus, you've lost your immediate family.
That's right. I became an orphan.
You became an orphan. Were you in career mode at that point? Were you in a good career that you thought was going to be the be-all, end-all?
Yes, I had fallen into human resources, recruiting and consulting, mostly recruiting, and had landed what I thought at the time was my dream job. Before starting my own HR consulting firm with my business partner. Fabulous company, super supportive. They still exist, and they're actually much more known on the healthcare side of things in Atlanta as far as recruiting. But I'd only been with the company maybe 3 months. I mean, it was like really early on, and got that call from my uncle, who tried to keep in touch with my brother to tell me that he had passed, and went catatonic on the phone. And my colleague took over, and we are still friends to this day, I might add. This man, Richard, phenomenal, took over the call, hosted the Shiva for later for my brother's funeral. My brother lived at the time in the Marquette University area in Wisconsin. And I am in Judaism, we have 48 hours to get a body in the ground religiously. That's somehow what some of us believe. I had to get that body back to Atlanta to our family plot. So he took over all of that. And he even, like I said, hosted the first night of Shiva for my family coming into town for all of this. I mean, and helped with the calling tree and everything, because I was just sitting there like literally catatonic. I don't remember any of that going down. This is all hearsay.
And thank goodness you mentioned before that your good friends who you met in Atlanta were your support system. They become your family, right?
They really do.
Yeah.
They really do.
So you're in this job. Where's the yearning to go out on your own? What were some of the pivotal moments that you said, you know what, Dana, you could do this. It's time for me to run my own show?
So I ended up leaving that director position because it was agency side of recruiting still, and I had yet to experience the corporate side of recruiting and work in-house. And so that was my next goal. So I gained some corporate in-house experience. And when my business partner and I met, we were actually teamed together with a company in the merchant services industry that no longer exists. I think they've been bought up. But regardless, that particular company was a very large merchant services company, very well known, 25,000 employees, worldwide kind of situation.
Huge.
And we were heavily recruiting.
Yeah.
And she and I, like I said, were on the same team, and they were literally training us to ghost candidates, move forward. That's not an efficient way of working. It wasn't good. We were both pretty upset about it. And it was around that time also that I'd gotten pregnant, and I had got married, got pregnant, and had a really, really challenging pregnancy because I had hyperemesis for the first 6 months, which is morning sickness times 100 all day long, not just morning sickness.
Oh,
I weighed less pregnant than I did pre-pregnant.
Me too.
Oh, wow. So
Oh, I know. I didn't have that, but I had gestational diabetes. So, you can't eat sugar or flour, you really.
Yeah, no, I can relate. After I came out of the 6 months of hyperemesis, I too had gestational diabetes, and I also had preeclampsia. And then my son Deegan was actually born 6 weeks early because I had to go into emergency C-section.
You have not had an easy road, but yet you still smile and persevere. So I admire your strength for sure.
Thank you. I can generally tell you, Michelle, truly through everything that I have been through, I am a very happy person. I feel very lucky to still be here. And I feel that with any successes or failures, there's always a lesson to be learned. And you've got to continue to keep putting the positive out there. And that's been only because of the healing and the therapy that I've been doing.
So you and your colleague or your coworker start to realize this is not so great. What was the first move that you transitioned from corporate to entrepreneur?
I would say my business partner, Veronica, really set the tone by handling the paperwork side of getting us to be a company on paper. And it wasn't as hard or as challenging as I was making it out to be. So when she was like, it's done, like we're technically on paper a company right now, I was like, shut up. Oh my God. It really wasn't that bad. Oh my goodness. Well, what do we do now? And we grassroots, completely organically started our own company, checked in with a few former clients and relationships that we had to make sure that there would actually be a client base to start with, right? To make sure that we had somewhere to start from. And I will say the very first company, I don't think they exist anymore, but the very first company that I worked for corporate in-house and got that experience, they were my very first client. And they were the first bit of money that we actually brought in. So cannot thank them enough, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was really, really fun. And then my husband is a fancy schmancy program manager on this major or mega program out of Georgia Department of Transportation here with infrastructure as far as civil engineering, roads, bridges, highways, traffic, et cetera. And had a few clients and colleagues asking him how he has such success hiring. And he goes, oh, Dana, you should use her, kind of thing. So he's my biggest fan and champion as well.
He's your business development person.
Yes. And the funny part is we do not have the same last name. So for a while, the industry did not know that we were married, which is kind of hilarious and kind of, not a big deal. But for the small niche industry of transportation engineering, it's hilarious when we show up as that sort of power couple walking in at the conferences or these specific organizational association, get-togethers, and he's got his hand on my back or something. And they're like, what is this? I was like, well, we're actually married, just so you know. Yeah.
That's awesome. So you start this business, and clearly the lessons you learned from being in corporate, what were some of those lessons that you took with you into the company you're running today?
Veronica and I felt very strongly that the actual phrasing human resources needed to come back to reality. And we knew that we could do it better. We wanted to put the human back in human resources. So we were training all of our employees, all of our interns coming through and transitioning to employment for us to understand the differences. I know you get busy, but if you work efficiently, and we train them on time management, we train them on how to utilize their reminders and their calendars to their advantages, we would literally provide any tools they felt were necessary to make them feel more efficient as well. We would research and we would look into these things, and some technology has really made quite the difference over the years. But it was about the relationship. It was about getting so much more than just the general information out of that resume and reading between the lines.
Yeah.
And more so than anything, because my business partner and I are both female, and she identifies in the LGBTQAI plus community, and I am in the I am, a cisgender, straight woman, but I will say that I am an ally, always have been. We wanted to make sure that our DEI and J, our diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, spread far beyond just what we were doing. And so it was imperative to us to get involved in programming, for example, around return to work through prison systems, right? We wanted to make sure that women of color, specifically Black women in Atlanta, because this is where we are located and founded. And let's be honest, Atlanta entrepreneurism is fundamentally run through the heart and soul of Black women of Atlanta and their entrepreneurial spirit. So when I say that, and my business partner is one of those, right? A constant entrepreneur at heart. She's always got ideas. She's an idea person. I'm an integrator. That's why we yin and yang so well.
Yeah.
But through that, we knew that especially helping women of color, let alone Black women, realize and understand their worth, empower and lift and engage with them to make sure that they know walking into an interview how important it is to know what their number or salary range is, right? And to know that their skill sets are transferable from these angles, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
That was such a goal that it was, I don't want to say easy to obtain, but it was in fact easier to make friends, to build a network over time, to build a colleague structure of being able to say, I've got a guy for that, I've got a girl for that, I've got a person for that, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. On the flip side, what were some of the lessons, and you talked about one of them, but I'd love to hear more about that or others. What are some of the lessons that you said, well, these are lessons I am not going to continue in my business from corporate America?
Absolutely. I mean, anything against the relationship build, right? Cutting someone off, not fully listening or active listening, right? Which is a different kind of listening, let's be honest. Processes that were so blatantly discriminatory, right? Not interviewing people for the same interview process with the same questions or the same way. And maybe, throwing in an audible every now and then, unacceptable, right? Everyone needs to be asked the same questions, and everybody needs to be housed in your CRM or your database the exact same way, right? All of that. There were a lot of questions back in the day because the resume itself has really gone through quite an upheaval, right? It's changed in so many ways over the years. So, getting people to understand the certain things on a resume that just add to the potential of you being dismissed without even, you're being dismissed on a piece of paper. You have been reduced to this piece of paper. So never thinking of people as pieces of paper, rather reading those names, understanding those names, asking specifically how you pronounce those names, right?
Yes.
Getting to know people from a respect standpoint instead of, well, I'm just going to call you Mish because I can't say your name, Michelle.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's amazing how things have evolved, but yet there are still some practices that are still the same. The questions, talk about that for a second. The questions that people are asked on an application, why should they be different or why should they be the same?
Yeah. If you don't have a pull down on your application now that has more than just sex, male, female, you wrong for that. Hardcore. And you need to get with 2023, right? And there's all kinds of EEOC and claims and labor law and employment law and things that are talked about all the time. I was actually on a webinar yesterday that was very enlightening regarding some of those very important things in job applications and interview processes that are disgusting. And so we try really hard to educate and avoid. We have gotten to the point now where we are in our 6th year as Hive Talent Acquisition firm, and we're very proud of that. We are a Black-owned, thank you, Black-owned, woman-owned, minority-owned, a DBE, and a government contractor ourselves. We do tend to work with clients who are similar in those mindsets, generally Black-owned, woman-owned, minority-owned firms as well. Our specialty is in transportation engineering, but we do run the gamut and have exposure in many different industries and arenas on a daily basis. And one of the things that we love about that is we don't work with clients, and we have fired clients in the past who have no interest in hearing the education. So you can come to me and you can say, I'm looking to hire an executive admin at $45,000. And I will say, that's great. I don't know how you're going to find that person. Good luck. And they're like, wait, I'm coming to you to help me find that. And I said, well, if you're coming to me and you're dead set on that 45,000, I'm here to educate you. Ain't gonna cut it. Not gonna cut it. That's not a livable wage, peeps, right? That's not a livable wage. And so one of the things that we've been very forthcoming and transparent about these days, and let me tell you, when our clients push back, we have a tendency to say, that's fine, we will work on it, but I can guarantee you it's not a priority. And I'm very honest with them. This is not top of my list, and you're not getting quality candidates because of it. When you've got an extra $10,000 to add to that, $15,000 really, because I don't think anybody should be making less than $60,000, especially with inflation the way it is right now. I would say to them, again, these are the things that matter. I'm still a business. Of course, I want to help you find the right person, but you're not going to find the right person at that level. And you shouldn't be offering that as a salary. And that's been a very big challenge these days. But for the most part, clients and people these days tend to understand gone are the days of commission 100% structure, right? Gone are the days of the salaries less than $50,000. Because really, $45,000 is ridiculous. 50,000 isn't much better, but when you're getting into 55 to 60 there, right, then you're starting to get into a livable wage in a major city like Atlanta, which, by the way, it is almost impossible these days to find an apartment, a 1-bedroom apartment for less than $1,800 here, which it never used to be that issue. Yeah. I know you're laughing because it's been that way for years up, in the north of the country.
It's insane where it is in many cities. I mean, the tri-state area, forget it. But yeah, I get it.
So you take all those things into consideration and your butt still wants to offer a $35,000 salary? Yeah. Oh, but the commissions, these people aren't going to have a place to live. You're done.
Exactly.
Exactly. That is privilege at its worst right there, is thinking that you can reduce a job description and require daily duties and responsibilities out the ass, pardon my language, but it's true, that do not add up to $35,000 worth of a salary. We're talking at this point $75,000+ worth of a salary, but people want it for 35.
Yeah, exactly. Craziness. I want to move on to your book, and I know you peppered in a couple of things, but tell us about what was the moment you decided, and I mean, you have an amazing, unfortunate story, and here you are doing wonderful things, but what was that moment like that you said, you know what, I need to get this down on paper, I need to share my story?
It was very backwards. I never intended it to be a book. The truth of the matter was, this was my personal therapy. I had boxes of journals from various years of therapy that I'd done after my parents had passed and then my brother passed. And then with the quick marriage that my husband and I sort of got into, we were older when we met. It was, we didn't date as long as we probably could have before we got pregnant. We got pregnant on the first try. Who knew, right? And in this day and age, that is definitely considered a blessing. Yeah. I have so many friends who have struggled with fertility. So, we were grateful, but we hadn't learned how to communicate as a couple. And we were already having the baby and had to learn how to communicate as a couple and then also as a family. So my therapy started again as an adult. And found these other journals, and my husband actually said, maybe you should start writing again to see, what happens. And lo and behold, because I was busy with the company, busy with the mom stuff, and busy with my local temple here and volunteer activities, I actually conveniently last year, so 2022 around February, met in an all-female, awesome entrepreneurial networking thing. Met my ghostwriter, who I do give credit to in the book, and Phyllis Emerell and I have become really great friends because of this work together. So worked with a ghostwriter, and we wrote the manuscript in 6 months, and I was very happy with it. And she said, hey, you mind if I just show this to a publisher friend of mine just for some professional reference? No big deal. And I really didn't think anything of it because she knew that I was done, or at least I knew I was done, or thought I was done. And one publisher friend showed it to another publisher friend. And before I knew it, I had 3 different publishing houses talking to me about potentially publishing the book.
Wow.
It was out of nowhere for me. I had no clue. And so then it became the reality of I could really help people on a national, let alone maybe even a global scale with their healing. Okay, this isn't even about me. This is about everybody else now, right? So the book became a thing from the perspective of let's get it out there. Let's have conversations and discussions around your trauma or your loss or whatever has affected you, and let's get you healing, right? And I'm no doctor, but what I do know is my personal experiences. I have helped myself heal and others heal through just loving conversation, just being an ear for someone.
Wow, that is so beautiful. I love that. Dana, this has been an amazing conversation. Tell us where people can find you, and just a real quick about, who your target audience is in your business. Is it on the employee side, the candidate, or is it the company side?
We actually have two sides to the business. That's an excellent question. So from an individual perspective, we do offer resume rewrite, reformat, interview preparation, and best practices for utilizing free LinkedIn, I might add, no payment, no premium, free LinkedIn for your job hunt. And we can help you with all those intricacies as an individual. From the client side of things, our HR consulting side works with small and medium-sized businesses. And we are well aware that we are a springboard for that human resources and employee development side of their businesses. So we come in and we act as your HR director, your talent director, and we handle the minutia of that daily stuff that normally takes you as the business owner away from what it is you want to be doing, right? I've lost my fob. I need to change my insurance. We're having a baby, like whatever, right? I feel sad today. I want to talk to someone, right? That's employee development as well, and employee engagement. So we handle all of that while you go kick butt in the other aspects of your business.
Awesome. That is awesome. So the name of the company is?
The name of our company is Hive Talent Acquisition Firm. Hive, like a beehive, talent acquisition firm. Our website, www.hivetaf.com, HIVETAF.com.
Awesome. And you have
find
a
us
brick
on
and
LinkedIn
mortar
as well. Oh, so sorry, what?
You have a brick and mortar as well, correct?
We do. We have a brick and mortar in Sandy Springs in the greater metro Atlanta, Georgia area. Very proud of that. And so we can do meetings there as well. Our website provides different options for calendaring yourself if you're a business or an individual. So definitely take advantage of that.
Congratulations on 6 years, and all the best for many more years to come. Last but not least, tell us, we'll have all this in the show notes for the listeners, but tell us the name of your book.
The short of it is Before I Knew It, They Were Gone, a Jewish first-generation American woman's journey through the darkness.
That's awesome. We will have that in the show notes, and congratulations on your success with the book. Just came out this year, 2023. It's available on Amazon, and where else? Anywhere else?
It is. It's available on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble. You can find it if you're local to Atlanta at Cheris and Read It Again books. These are some of the local small businesses that are carrying it right now that we're very proud to partner with. So the book launched, so excited, January 3rd, right at the beginning of the year. Happy New Year to us, right?
Yes.
And then we also launched recently my website, dananeiger.com. So DANANEIGER.com.
We'll make sure all of that is in the notes. Well, Dana, thank you so much for all your insight today. I wish you all the best, and I love the mission and passion that you are incorporating in your business. Bringing human resources, the word human, back into that, and including all, right? So yes. All the best to you. Thanks again for being on the show. Listeners, please take a look at her website if you are in need and if you're in the local area and you need some help in that department, and also check out her book.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for having me.
Thank you again for listening. We'll be back soon with a brand new episode of the Heart Inspired podcast. Until then, I'm your host, Michelle Delgado. I welcome you to support the show by rating us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. To learn more about HeartMetrics Consulting, book a strategy call by visiting the website at heartmetrics.com.